So for our audience, they've probably heard my father and I speak a little bit about mold here and there, but they may not have heard about mold illness and mycotoxin illness. So I wanted you to just begin today by telling our listeners what mold and mycotoxin illness is and why it's important for them to know about it.
Yeah, I'm on a mission not only to expand literacy with medical doctors, but also regular people, because I think that, the definition for mold illness right now, if you look on the CDC website, is basically what I refer to as spore illness. So that's going to be reactions to interacting with spores and spore fragments, things like allergy, postnasal drip, sinusitis, and if it goes on long enough, it's severe enough, asthma. Mm-hmm. And that in my patient population is about less than a quarter of the type of symptoms that we're seeing. The other 3/4 of the symptoms are related to mycotoxins and possibly chemicals. So mold also makes two other problems that can affect your health. One is chemical, which is happily living mold. I kind of joke, it's like mold farts, so mold is the factory, right. And it's eating and metabolizing, is putting out all these chemicals, which we're really familiar with in the chemical environmental world, which is VOCs. People are trying to find low VOC paint. Well, mold spits out VOCs, alcohol, aldehydes, puts those things into your air, and those can get through building material. So now you've got spores, spore fragments, chemicals. And then the most dangerous part of mold is a defensive thing that it spits out, which is a toxin called mycotoxins. And those toxins they just wreak havoc on the body. They can seep into almost any tissue in the body, create almost any symptom. And so that's why we're missing mold a lot of times, because this is, our definition being just allergy. Now you're seeing how, wow, we're not even paying attention to all the symptoms that could be from mycotoxins.
And can you give our audience a frame of reference around the size of these mycotoxins? Because they're quite small compared to the mold and the spores themselves. So what are we talking about for size here?
That's a great point. Yeah. So mycotoxins are 50 times smaller than the smallest spore. And they also can get through building materials. So if you have a situation where someone has a brewing mold problem behind the building material, under flooring, under a shower on the second floor that's maybe affecting the seepage of those toxins into the first floor, those mycotoxins are getting right through all that building material, and you won't have any of the respiratory type reactions that we associate as being a mold problem. So 50 times smaller than the small spores, teeny.
And that's an important point too, because I think people think, well, mold's behind the walls, or maybe it's behind the walls. It can't affect me. It can't go through the drywall, but it certainly can. And then once it's I've heard you talk about in a podcast before, like if you're in a basement and you light a candle or some incense, pretty soon that whole basement's going to smell like that candle or the incense. Right. And the same concept is applying to mycotoxins in terms of their spread throughout your whole home.